Chapter 12. To Cry Quietly, 992, Verdant Era. Gregor awoke to O's sputtering snore. For 2 decades he'd learned to ignore the mosaic's nasal lumberjacking, a congeniality overlooked among the tweaks made to his Reyth'Vakda ancestors by the professors of Ascalon. The tent stunk of dwarf sweat and sweet booze, but as deep sleep never came to Gregor, he sensed neither the smell nor the snore had roused him from dreams of a white desert. Soft footfalls outside, nearly lost to the ringing in his ears. Someone approached. Vertigo slowed his stand. Gestalt close but never drawn, Gregor stepped into the cool night to join those creatures who chittered in darkness. Outside, Reyth awaited him. Surprised he'd come to her first, she lingered at a distance. Given the late hour, she looked more ragged than beside the fire. A bough without a string straddled a slouched shoulder opposite her artifice. Raspberry's razors sunk into layered cloth cut from a servile's uniform and strapped like a pauldron unto Reyth by a repurposed bridle. Scarce mithrite arrows and the arachnid jewelcraft under a grey cloak gave faint green geofluorescence against the dark as myric energy churned within. A Cervantes fragmentation masher, unscrewed, unfurled, ready for a tug and toss, hung beside a blood-rusted bayonet upon her hip. So, Reyth had been a part of the crew that hit the Cervantes back. Like a scolded dog, she averted herself in shame, as if weakness brought her here. "You want to talk?" he asked. She showed him the back of her hands, then after a moment's consideration flipped them around.
"I heard you's gonna take a trip when Uyu wakes, to trade with our new neighbors."
And although she trailed off, Gregor arrived upon her insinuation, pushing the sleep from his eyes and fighting the swirl in his ears. Time had made sleeplessness so much easier to bear, while the nausea had grown long with the years. "You're welcome to come," Gregor said, planting Gestalt firm against the grass to steady himself. "We could use another keen scout." Reyth shifted on her heels, and when he drew nearer, she drew away. They stood uneasy together, beneath the 2 moons, absent the electric or gas glow of modernity, the true mystery of night revealed. Between rough-hewn pathfinders and elementary peoples, they shared a distaste and distrust for what lurked out of knowledge. With the last fire snuffed, with Era stark, Ugulu blazing, and the horizon aflame with crimson glow, no vast valley enraptured them. The land's presence could not be sensed. No fruit, no life, only strife through unto dawn.
"Could we speak alone?"
Reyth asked. Reyth tipped her bow towards the watcher, then towards Gestalt, then back to her shelter. Her earlier retreat had intent. She'd learned the full extent of Gestalt's passive reach, or maybe sensed subtle disturbances in the watcher's view.
"But keep your distance until I say."
A Seren tent, cut from thick olive canvas, sat further afield than similar others. Gregor waited in the lonely cold morning dew as Reyth readied herself for Gestalt's entry. Reyth sat in the hazy glow of a lantern's kerosene flame through mercury glass. Raspberry, nestled into a pile of soft goods, had collapsed into constituent gizmos before Gestalt. A single tussled bedroll filled a space otherwise littered with loose ammunition for small-caliber arms, spent and unspent casings and shells for heartlands and ventcocks, sidearms and rifles. For how aggrieved and austere she presented herself, the abode presented many accommodations of the heart. Music boxes, photographs, black bottles and animal pelts, packed into an open military locker stamped with the black star of the Cervantes. An Estovac's camera wrapped in an unbuttoned pastel blouse interwove heavy hide blankets. The blank backs of overturned photographs clotheslined to wire told but one story. Gregor took a seat, insinuating to the camera, "Learning the art of capturing light. I never could quite get it." But she gave nothing from the knot she'd wound herself into, knees to chest, arms pulling them tight, fingers clicking calves. Grinding teeth moved her jaw around trapped words. A mutter,
"It is good to see again, with me own eyes,"
is all she managed through a troubled smile. He considered a gentle approach, reaching for a black bottle of Schneider's specialty, corked and fresh. "You a fancier? Spice root calms, but doesn't quite shine like hooch." Gregor worked the cork into the bottle with the back of a bullet. "They say man sought Miria from elf." Pop. But elf sought wine from man. The sound startled as the story alienated. Reyth gave him an odd look.
I do not know the taste. We could not open the mouth without the tool. I felt a fool.
Greg tossed 2 wooden cups of tea outside, pouring 2 fresh wellsprings of what stunk like Mergardian red meat mead, popular among Ilesh for its bloody twang. You seem troubled, more than usual, Gregor said, offering a cup and taking a lesson from the fish's manner. Neither stench nor taste greeted Reyth well, for she growled and frizzled like a cat to citrus. She spat what she could and evil-eyed the rest. From Gestalt's mend, a droplet like red wax fell from her cheek, and further spiced the brew.
Piss and pox, that is foul.
Reyth tossed the rest from the tent and threw the cup aside.
I am troubled. I am uneasy. I feel guilt, but am unsure why.
Because you killed the scryer? Gregor asked. The young soldier boy I bid you leave be. Covetous of her own hands, bloodshot greys peered at him through trembles. Waxy red dribbles dripped from strained sockets, the shape of Miria undone, the fresh wounds clotted, and with her blanket she wiped the tears away. There he glimpsed Arik in her, the strong nose, long face, the sagging eyes of the afflicted.
No, because I blinked and killed another.
She showed her palm, calloused and worn.
And before I knew I had killed so many. The pain is not like Evren, not like me, Pap. But I have come so far I forget to sleep.
Reyth reached for the bundle of Gestalt, but he brushed her away.
I want you to make me sleep.
Reyth remained stretched, undeterred until Gregor fit into the shape of her grip the discarded cup and poured a second showing of meaty mindfulness. You must be careful when asking for miracles, when mundane means to your ends exist. Sensing the blunted edge of the first sip, she did not reject the second. The third went easy. The fourth went well. This pain, this guilt, is your humanity, Gregor explained, screaming out that your work here upon Thes has grown greater by your own hand. A purpose, a penance, worthy of the purchased bread.
I do not honor a mason's crux like me foolish uncle Ishi.
Reyth wielded the moniker Gregor came to accustom to respect with spite. My faith is irrelevant to our common experience. Gregor answered and took a sip himself. The temptation to drink on dizzy days, something he'd long ago overcame, but seeing himself in Reyth's sleepless worry, broke open recesses thought long forgotten. Gregor gave a silent toast to memories roused as he went on. Though you'd be wise to give credence to miracles you've borne witness to with your own eyes.
Eyes are the greatest tricksters of all. You've poisoned me uncle's mind. His body rots and his spirit is broke. He is dangerous as Sangar's own great evils.
Gregor relented, feeling the warmth in his belly. Arik found his own peace, as must you and I. Guilt can be a great teacher. Reyth untied herself and uncurled to sit cross-legged to drink close to the ground just as the fish had. A more natural posture, or an insinuation that she saw through Gregor's attempt to disarm her through custom and manner. Who else did you hurt? Greg asked. Tugging her shirt open, she twisted to show her toned back, where desperate nail marks scythed flesh, erratic and irregular.
A dark one, the one who hurt Ty. But I feel numb of it, until all at once I panic.
Our capacity for violence has exceeded our instinct. Every step into that unknown you risk never returning.
I guess she's right. My mistakes.
Reyth inhaled deep, closed her shirt, to hold herself together as she bore the truth.
I've made it easier, but I don't want to make mistakes. I need the river's certainty. I am unsure if it was wise to kill the scryer. But his life made it easier to kill the ghost on the white tail and save him. I should feel wonder, but instead I worry. I worry had I been the one to...
Reyth finished what remained of her drink in lieu of the thought, then offered the cup back as if in tribute for more. Not as ready to die as you thought. Gregor more than obliged her request. In that flash of uncertainty we take actions we may not fully understand, face realities we were hitherto unaware of. Out there, knowing you are as nothing as they, will make it easier on the battlefield. But in silence that truth will ring throughout the remainder of your days. You are destroying everything inside you to make it true.
Is it possible to slay these belly butterflies?
Reyth asked. I cannot answer. I too chase these deep places of violence despite myself.
If I am to find the green-eyed devil,
Reyth sipped.
if I am to kill him, I must find a way. He has no such weakness, nah?
I would not be so sure, Gregor cautioned. I have been where they stand. It was fear of reflection that kept me proud to be a weapon. This pyromancer, the green-eyed devil, is a man like me, forged by military training into a pillar of resolve. To challenge a magister you need guile. A bullet may work, but a wielder's real weakness is the mind. Challenge their focus, and they'll bury themselves in ruin. Gregor reached for her. Reyth flinched, but allowed him to grab the hand about the cup. The wry shadows of the lantern laced between their knuckles as he brushed speckles of blood. You deserve your guilt. It inspires you to change. Don't ignore it.
Even Ya and the fish think me a monster. The only change I want is to grow stronger.
Reyth traded hooch for a Heartland model long rifle, bearing the broken mount of a scope, buried in the bedsheets. The sudden arrival of Reyth's reckless trigger-fingering urged him be at the ready. Greg caught the rifle like a crossbar as she swung its wide arc about the tent, and stopped her from bringing the barrel over him. Careful! Where did you find this? Gregor asked, alive all at once. Keep your finger off the trigger and the barrel low. Gregor did not say so, to save himself a drunken rage at a perceived insult, but how did she intend to fight with no knowledge of basic safety? Confused, Reyth obeyed but continued on her path, picking an unspent casing from the floor and trying to jam it into the loading mechanism. The awkward way Reyth levered the bolt implied to Gregor she acted out of mimicry, imitating what she'd seen as if never shown.
He's right. I am not so clever with this. I want you to teach me.
Excuse me. Gregor gawked, flabbergasted. I will do no such thing. I am not your rifleman's tutor.
You told me in the fish you're here to teach.
Reyth said. Yes, but she interrupted him.
So when I ask you to teach, teach. Or is the fish right? Is your men from outside all soft to the bone? If I get killed because you did not teach me, is you not responsible? Maybe you deserve that guilt.
Gregor supposed he did deserve that, if for the stunt before the entire camp to make a point at her expense. Very well, Gregor said, disarming her of the Heartland with a snap and spin, the weapon across his lap before she realized she held only the bullet anymore. But not like this. Let me fetch a more familiar tool. A brief trip back to O's tent, Gregor scoured the supply of the Mosaic's Ventcock Mark IIs, the Firebrand export variant, specifically licensed to Triarchan manufacturers for lease back to Velka during the war. Heavier than he was used to, the Criterion steel alloy and wormwood polymer composites were cost-saving corner cuts at the expense of the reliability found in Velkan originals, imbued with all the skill and craftsmanship of a card-carrying unionista. In sympathy, Gregor worried he made a mistake. Reyth had a point that she'd act with or without know-how, yet she had no sense of her ignorance's dimensions. Gregor tried not to dwell on Reyth's longevity as he returned, but she'd not even sense of the plentiful dangers of simple tetanus, the plague upon rust. Here's your first problem, Gregor explained to wide-eyed Reyth, forgetting the blood that oozed in his return to watch his demonstration. Gregor sorted the mess of shells into like piles. You can't jam Heartland calibers into a Ventcock. The serviles don't observe ruck standards. Gregor tapped Reyth's scavenged rifle. The Heartland consortium's a Seren endeavor. They use smaller cartridges due to scarce resources and to increase capacity. They often compensate by mixing powder with alchemics. You can tell the difference in caliber by the numbers pressed on the flat. There's different metrics, but both the Rook and Sievish numerals are base 10, like a hand. Alchemic shells will have far-form marks instead. Beyond me and best if left be. Reyth's stark interest bid him a question. Hasn't Schneider been teaching the others the basics? Don't care to hear what he has to say?
I barely care what that Eshi has to say, nah?
Reyth laughed, drunkenly joyous. He held back an urge to eye the camera. It is wise to be careful around Schneider's crew, not to say their intents aren't genuine. But...
Stop lecturing me, Eshi. I am not without sense. Go on.
Gregor began loading, one shot at a time until filled, then retracted the bolt. The spring-loaded mechanism kicked and ejected a bullet. He repeated until each one plinked to the floor, then with his palm slid the bolt forward and clicked it back into place. In a trench you won't have time to stall, for the charge will be upon you. From the detritus he plucked a thin metal band and slotted 7 shots into the groove. This is a clip, slots clean. He exchanged the vent cock for the heartland and slid the clip inside, then jerked the bolt to chamber around, before ejecting them all again for safety. See? But clear from her gawk, he'd gone too quickly. He ejected the shells and pushed the rifle to her. Give it a try. Load the clip, then sink it. Once you get that down, you'll need to learn to keep it clean before learning to shoot. Heartlands are shod. They'll take getting used to, but you'll need to know every step. Care, from repair to warfare. Reyth took the rifle and began to play. Again she swung it wide, and Gregor blocked the barrel from boring right through him. Reyth went again, arced the rifle up and over to reorient without endangerment. She sought approval he kept withheld. The first time I picked up a rifle, Gregor said, I was more afraid than I could imagine. He heard her swallow, dreary and disinterested, but he ignored it. I feared that death in some way was at my door. At first I didn't kill men, for my war was different. Then things changed. First, a comrade mutineer, sentenced for desertion. Second, a petty officer, sentenced for treason, in truth tricked by avian minecrafts. Then, I forget, too many more, in mutiny, in the massacre of my political enemies. If you won't listen to my first lesson, which is to walk a different way, my second is to not walk this way alone. You can never escape fear, only face it, and it is easier to face together, from conversation upon a march to bounding movement in free-form assault. Your comrades are all you have, because they are the only ones who'll understand that there is frightening joy in walking this desolate place. It is such a perverted part of who we are as creatures, that we can still find communities among ceaseless violence. I cried silently, so my comrades would not mistake my regret for weakness, for in me they trusted, and in I them. I chose to lose myself later in peace that had never come. My fear turned inwards. It terrified me to not know peace even as it came. I am at home here. In the horror is the only peace I have left. Gregor pushed the vent cock away, rejecting its allure. Bespoke, the rifle fit me. You think it fits you?
I think.
Topsy-turvy. Giggling and sloshed, she fiddled to load a full Heartland 7.
I fit it.
With a click, she managed to sink lead beneath the bolt, then caressed the neck of the long rifle as it replaced the bow in the snug nook upon her shoulder, held with care. Gregor set his cup aside, the second pour altogether untouched. I need to ask again about your brother. She scowled, though not quite fierce despite the crusted crimson on freckled cheeks. It posed a dangerous look for a drunk lady with a fairy fascist's rifle.
Ya and the fish stop picking at me.
Reyth snorted. What does the fish...
What's the fish have to do with this?
She interrupted. Sensing he was losing her, Gregor lifted his hands to show he meant no harm, but she accused him nonetheless.
The whole camp heard him try and give me to you because they think I'm some bad fortune.
Insecurities bore, she reached for her cup. Finding it empty, she took the bottle.
It's me body. A tree does not want to be carved with a knife so long as it breathes. And if it is carved, it does not say by who. Like the tree, I am ashamed.
Spilling burnt golden mead over her chin and chest, she smeared blood with booze as she wiped herself dry and pointed the bottle at Gregor. With ease he took it away. He told me many things. Some I rejected, he said. Reyth fumbled and fought him for the bottle, but he kept it afar. He told me your speaker fled and warned to fear the girl with the yellow eye, but here I see a woman with eyes of grey. As I have mentioned before, I understand the nature of your blindness. While Miria is troublesome, this curse is no omen any more than the avian flu. Unpleasant as though they both are, the only reason I can conceive of the speaker's warning is to cast aspersions upon your character, given what I can only surmise was your unexpected survival.
And?
Reyth began. Already her grip on the rifle grew weak, tumultuous with soft sobs made easy by mead.
What about what they say about me and Evren? Do you think
She couldn't finish. The pain cinched her throat shut. Reyth pushed, or more likely fell into him. He caught her in an embrace she neither returned nor rejected. "I am not convinced you murdered your brother. You needn't be ashamed of being tricked by family." Unsure how to address the rifle between them, Gregor held her head against him and pried his own aside to make room for the heartland. "If you can lead me to this place, I could perhaps understand. Make your case to the others in confidence." He sensed the tension return, and the stifling of tears let go. The request mistook as a scheme, she withdrew, and he let her go, swaying, floating adrift, yearning for copper relief. To bide his time, he scratched at his beard. "You worried about me?" he said, despite awareness of the contrary. "No, I am not so easily threatened."
"Me uncle got the best of you."
Reyth grumbled, burped, and washed down the unpleasantness with mouthfuls of Gregor's abandoned drink. Gregor nodded, letting her give in to silence with what more she had to say.
"It is no as you think. I don't know hide it. I don't know lie. I just cannot find it. It is gone, you see."
Reyth smacked herself.
"Vanished. I cannot say where I have been because I cannot remember."
Gregor considered the corn poppy's billow, the curve of a sensual feather. Her sight restored, but her memory remained absent. It could not be. "With your consent," Gregor brushed the blade's flare, smoothing the cloth to give clean shape to Gestalt. "A piece of the world. I would like to try something." Reyth hopped up, hitting pots and pans and getting tangled in the photographs. Gregor nearly had to slide out of the tent as she clambered about.
"Did you not say you cannot help already? Remember?"
She tapped her head, where the memory lived.
"Miracles don't all happen. You gotta do it yourself, you said."
She waved the second empty cup.
"So I am."
"I wish to attempt to compel the truth from you," Gregor answered, planting the blade firm to grass. "To compel you recall your memory of that place." This stopped her wild abandon, and sobriety honed her focus.
"Yeah, you can do that?"
A desperate light flit from the fidgeting shadows.
"If and so, you could make me forget?"
"I'm afraid it's not so simple," Gregor explained, creeping back inside to rejoin her in the tent after she calmed. "I can't take who you are, but you seek more than the Magister, right? You're really after the Speaker. Play your cards right, and I could be the inadvertent harbinger of your retribution. A few weeks of dedicated work with that rifle and a regular regimen. You could crack shots toe-to-toe with Sivnante's regulars. Best chance to kill a Magister or witch. How's that?" No stoic. Reyth beamed a vicious joy, then laughter as this time she hugged Gregor, arms and all. The tangled mess of her flame-red hair mashed against his face, dusted with gunpowder, old blood, and the scents of stone and chalk.
"If it shall not carve me body away, do as you must."
Joy fell into fear as she drew away, sat up straight and breathed deep as if for a plunge, trading old thoughts of the ventcock for the purity of Gestalt. With no need to bellow, he muttered a mere whisper upon her. "Remember." A spasm seized her shoulders, tension became torsion as no answer came. Neither confusion nor clarity. Reyth became still, then flushed many hues beyond obeisance. The acts of Gestalt never much for flash. This struck Gregor as unusual. In all his years beside her, never had she failed to compel what could be achieved. Intent coloured the vagaries of singular commands in ways he didn't fully understand, but felt beneath the scar that laced his navel to sternum, in the tears of his guts where Gestalt slept. Like a fool, he snapped his fingers as if she'd fallen into hypnosis. If he left her like this, she'd slip into dehydration and wither away. "Where is this cave?" he specified. To no reaction but hastened blinks, signalling an inherent code of a mind sparking without the luster of life, as her mechanism stalled. "Where does your brother lay?" A sound deep in the throat, gurgles of spit in the airway, a whimper of pain, like from an animal she sang, then rolled her chin to chest, to clutch herself, screaming a lost brother's name.
"Evren!"
"Where?" Gregor asked, then bayed through the blade. "Answer!" A miracle never came. Ripping red hair twined through fingers ratcheted by convulsions. The stiff fit of a seizure set Gregor to alarm. He caught her bobbling head before it hit the floor. The wet wash of vomit filled his lap. Gregor cursed the good name of God. Of all the wither's ways, only material means could supersede. The faith could not permit, he could not believe, it could not be. The dweller within had slipped through the cracks of an altered mind. "Sleep and forget," Greg commanded, and in ease her body slumped against him. This mess his own making, he washed Reyth's face and did what he could for her clothes while respecting her decency. Despite the abrupt episode, she slid into a child's sleep, total and unerring, and as his will faded, her rest became her own, serene and long overdue. Gregor gathered the dirtied blankets and stripped his sodden clothes to clean them before dawn, the business of preponderance and prayer. Mirya could manipulate the mind in unfathomable ways, but against Gestalt, the great feather could impose its own will upon the minds of men, and could draw tight the strings of the material to destroy such Mirya. But she could not conjure what did not exist, unable to create or destroy material like the Myric antithesis. And memories were as material as it came, electric signals through matter medium. New certainty unnerved Gregor. This had been no trick, but total physiological permanence like the scars of shell shock that assailed Gregor's own memories. Mere selectiveness lived in the subconscious, within Gestalt's reach, for he'd spent the last days of the war, before the impacts, mending the minds of shattered soldiers, reuniting them with memories of home and disassociating them from the wiles of war. More permanent erosion of memory like this, the domain of the demented and senile. Gregor must wonder, could the act of witness damage the mind? Gregor broke open his journal to take notes in the margins of the scrawls he'd gathered at the place the Twish called an agla. His pencil froze upon the wax. Gregor knew horror, such as that which Reyth had recalled, the fear of her brother looming large within her, dulling the sharpness of further crimes of passion. He too had seen children and loved ones slip away. He too had been the horror reflected in the naive's fear. The crunch of Avane clutches under Velkan boots in Sunderhen after the war had already been won. The post-impact rescues, the extortion of Triarch legislatures through their families, the conquest and cleanse of Gracias. And at last those boys and girls in the Twish burn pits. How could he not have helped them? Could have he alone saved any more lives? He'd saved Reyth's, and now she killed too. The harm to the vulnerable by the powerful never ended. No quarter be given unto monsters. Let blood stain the cobblestone and warn all who would walk in their path. Demanded the brands upon his body, aching as he crouched over the yellow-eyed girl. So bid the merciless Justicar, it be sin that Gestalt remain sheathed. Yet some sins surpassed the cruelty enacted by the vilest men, that which was pure and primeval enough to defy Gestalt in this way. The failures of past acts mustn't deter his works now. The others must be made aware. Therefore he put pencil to wonder instead, what horror kept in this land? What horror laid itself upon Reyth and her family? What horror had the nitwit magi of the East let free with this reckless land grab? What horror had yet been unseen in this sick, sad world adrift a godless sea, where faith in Kate's kind wisdom faltered when he needed it most?